Titus is a company that likely needs no introduction. Most well known for creating the abomination commonly referred to as Superman 64, they actually made their Nintendo console debut in the form of a single NES game released in 1992. That game was The Blues Brothers. That's right, based on the cult classic movie released in 1980, the Blues Brothers are back on the NES in an all-new adventure that I have no doubt will capture all the fun and excitement of the movie. Car chases, explosions, Cab Calloway, Carrie Fisher, explosions, car chases. There's so much potential for an incredible NES game here. I'm sure that Titus was able to properly utilize this source material and create a truly memorable game out of it. Well, they did. In fact, it's so memorable that you're gonna wish you couldn't remember it because unfortunately, it's just not a very good game. So if you're looking for an experience that's sure to make you blue, this is the game that's gonna do it. So with that said, let's dive into The Blues Brothers. So the first thing you're going to notice is just what the heck is wrong with their faces. Clearly this is where Dan Aykroyd got the inspiration for his skull bottle. But wow, this really gives Bad Street Brawler a run for its money of just weirdest interpretation of its main character that meets you the minute you turn the game on. But you know what? This is the least of our problems. Let's press start and see just how bad it's gonna get. So each level begins with a bit of an overview on just what you're going to be expected to do, and this one takes place in a department store that apparently we're gonna have to swim through? A good indication right off the bat that the people who made this game had no idea what they were doing. Getting to the actual gameplay though, the first thing you're gonna notice is that John Belushi here is actually very agile. He runs so fast he could almost give Sonic the Hedgehog a run for his money. But what's that, you say? It's not really that fast? Well, just wait until we press the B button. Good luck properly maneuvering yourself all around the floating spiky balls at that speed, because yeah, one of the main enemies you're going to be facing throughout the game are just arbitrary floating geometry that often appears from off-screen in places that you have no chance to react to. And then there's these elevators. You can't just stand on them, of course. You have to constantly jump or else they fall down. Who thought that this was a good idea? Because when I think of Blues Brothers, I think of a bunch of elevators. Oh wait, there actually was that fun part of the movie where they're on an elevator. Why does this have to be the one thing that they got accurate to the source material? Ugh. Moving on. So at the top of the elevator, suddenly the walls turn blue. Except those aren't walls, they're actually supposed to represent water. This game came out in 1992. You'd think that they could have animated the top of the water or something to indicate that. Clearly Adventure Island 3, which was released the same month in North America, was able to figure that out. But poor graphics aside, just what the heck is this supposed to be? A goggle-wearing shark on the third floor of a mall that's flooded with water that's miraculously not leaking down to the floors below? And you can ride this thing too? That's actually kind of amazing. I also believe I was promised swimming in water, not jumping around Mega Man style. But you know, hey, if there's a twist where John Belushi actually ends up being Mega Man, I won't complain. This is also a good time to mention that you don't have any weapons or projectiles in this game, so unfortunately, that theory is not looking too likely, but still, fingers crossed, it could happen. Really though, you are essentially defenseless with no way to destroy enemies, and jumping on them only rarely works. So with that, you have to just keep riding up these shoddy elevators, climb a tree that's jutting out of the roof for whatever reason, jump across some clouds, fall down where the screen scrolls slower than you do, and congratulations, you are now done the first level out of 5. So next up is the warehouse, where you'll be the victim of mad hounds and ferocious frozen pea? First a flooded mall and now a pea factory? You know what? I don't think we're gonna dive too deep into that one. The first thing you're going to notice about this level is that aside from the barfing green monster, is that the vast majority of it has ice physics. Another thing is that there are spikes absolutely everywhere, something you're going to get very accustomed to in this game very quickly. So combine the extremely tight passageways with the extremely unforgiving spikes, and good luck getting through this level without getting skewered. Also, if you hold B while you climb up a ladder, you'll launch right off the top. And because the developers knew you would probably do this, they actually put spikes at the top of the ladders to ensure you take damage. They put effort into making sure you hate this game. So you're probably wondering then, why bother holding the B button down at all? Clearly it just causes platforming perils, and you're right, but also holding B allows you to jump higher. It has nothing to do with the speed or momentum that you have, but just having the B button held allows you to jump about a tile higher than normal. So of course you're going to want to hold this whenever possible. It's just too bad you have to make the game nearly unplayable in order to get that extra height. The dogs are one of the rare exceptions when it comes to enemies that you can actually jump on, and you can even ride them for a little bit, similar to that shark from earlier. This is useful because any enemy that you run into while on the dog will be defeated. You can't jump in this state, however, so its use is rather limited, and there's this one part where clearly you're expected to use the dog to defeat this green guy, but a spike ball always comes in the way and defeats the dog, so I'm not sure exactly how you're supposed to avoid taking a hit here. Also, the water in this level actually has an animated surface, so I'm not sure what happened to it in the first level. But regardless, you go by that, you do some really awkward bounces on some really janky springs, go into a Super Mario Bros. Pipe, make a few more scary jumps, and then there you go, you've escaped the P Factory. Congratulations. But really, at this point, I'm sure you've noticed just how generic the levels are. I almost feel like this game started out as an NES version of Mega Man 3 for DOS. Maybe the third level will actually have a bit more to do with the movie. Or not. I would be very surprised if it did at this point. So apparently, after escaping the factory, the Blues Brothers somehow wind up in jail, but thankfully they only have spiders and dogs guarding the place, so escaping isn't so hard. You can also dunk a basket to get a 1-up, so I mean, that's kind of interesting, I guess, but otherwise it's more narrow passages and lots of spikes. This is actually one of the first times in the game that you'll see this music note item laying around, and it acts as a health pickup. Grabbing one of these gives you an extra hit point, which normally you start with 3 of. You also start with 3 lives and get 2 continues called encores if you game over. So the game could be even less forgiving than it is currently, so at least I guess we'll give it that. But you're really going to be thankful that you have this health bar coming up, because tanking hits is the name of the game as we get deeper and deeper into it, and especially near the end of this level. If you somehow manage to make it past the over-precise jumps with controls that feel less than great, and not to mention the blind drops that you have no idea what you're falling onto, then you're greeted with spikes and spiders which appear to be nearly unavoidable. You're sometimes given alcoves which it looks like you should be able to use to dodge the enemies, and yet even that doesn't work. So just stock up on those hit points, muster all your strength and patience, and just make a mad dash for the finish, no matter what it takes at this point. Just get that level done, and with that, 3 down, 2 to go. So where else would the Blues Brothers be headed next but into the sewers, which I guess at least this one kinda has some movie relevance? A little bit, I guess. I certainly don't remember the omnipresent sharks and onslaughts of Gollum in there, but you know what? That's kinda just par for the course of what I expect from this game at this point. So it's a good thing the Super Mario Brothers have Brooklyn to deal with, because I think they would take one look at these sewers underneath Chicago and say, forget that. Pipes will take you from one room to another, but it's not as simple as just an A to B transition. No way, they had to fill every inch of spare space within the walls with winding pipes that do nothing but waste your time and probably make you feel like you want to throw up. This also gives enemies ample opportunity to position themselves right on the other side of the pipe so that you're guaranteed to hit them when you come out. For a stage that's all about jumping into pipes and ending up in different locations, it's amazing just how much of an issue this is. And to top it all off, there's even a collision detection issue here. All throughout the game, it's so easy to get jammed into the top corners of the wall. Again, it's just shoddy programming at its finest, but this is especially bad when it comes to the pipes, because as you can see in this situation here, I touched the pipe at the same instant I phased into the top corner of a wall, and I actually got soft locked. And since there's no time limit in this game to destroy you, the only option at this point is to reset, because I know there's nothing you want more than to replay those awesome first few levels. There's also this one part where you have to jump across a bunch of slanted platforms, and falling means you have to redo a section where you're almost guaranteed to take a hit. Turn too late and you land on the spikes. Turn too early and you touch the side of the spikes. These one tile wide jumps really make you happy that this is the game you decided to play today. And don't worry, because after some more pipe shenanigans, you have to do even more one tile wide jumps, all while your character blends into the background so you can barely even tell what you're doing. Again, Titus just knew exactly what to do to make sure your gaming experience was as frustrating as possible. So jump up to the highest platform where the level ends. I guess that's supposed to represent that you got out of the sewer, and you're at the final level. Chapter 5, an explosive finale. Finally, hopefully this is where all of those explosions from the movie are going to take place. Well, they're not at the beginning of the level at the very least. Instead, we're greeted with a couple of extremely low steps. Now, in a good game like Super Mario Bros., this would be no issue. Getting the exact jump height that we want by releasing the A button when we want, that should make perfect sense, but not in the Blues Brothers. You have to hold A for less than 1 millisecond if you want to get a little tiny jump to ascend those steps. Also backed by popular demand are elevators that you have to ride, although thankfully, unlike the ones in the first level, these here do not require you to constantly jump. So ascend your way upwards while avoiding off-screen projectiles and extremely poor wrecking ball hitboxes, and eventually you'll find some grates that you have to climb through super narrow passages with spikes all over the place. Again, a Titus favorite. It is pure jank. You can't even tell what you're hanging onto half the time, and the top half of your body doesn't even have a hitbox, although only sometimes, so good luck figuring that one out. It is a complete mess, and they knew it too because they even give you a free one-up afterwards. So with that in hand, bounce your way upwards, and I like how at the top you can even see space. Maybe that's where someone should have sent this game to, at least we wouldn't have had to play it. Although our view of the universe is short-lived as we're soon descending our way downwards. And yeah, again, spikes are really all this game knows how to do, and really poorly programmed spikes at that. To the fact where you're not even touching them, but they'll get ya, don't you worry. Next, you'll come across a platform that you have to ride to the left, leaving you seemingly in the middle of nowhere, but then it hits you that you're once again required to jump to the right and perform single tile wide jumps over a pit of spikes. I think we're at a point where we can just predict what this game is going to do next. But keep riding platforms, keep squeezing your way between spikes, and eventually you'll hit what seems to be a dead end. Like, did we go the wrong way? Oh wait, that's actually the end of the game. What, were the Blues Brothers playing a concert to a bunch of construction workers? And where were all of my explosions? Ugh. But the game then stays on the screen, and depending on the buttons you press on the controller, you'll cycle through the various soundtracks in the game. And honestly, for what it's worth, the music isn't so bad in the Blues Brothers NES game. Often 8-bit renditions of tracks from the movie, so you know, it could be worse. But overall, that's it. That's the Blues Brothers, just like the movie. And I'm the kind of person who doesn't think it's bad if a game based on a movie is not a carbon copy of its source material. But look at what we just experienced. How much more generic could it get? You could have inserted any character into these levels and you wouldn't even know the difference. What an insult to such a great film. But just judging the game itself, on its surface, it doesn't seem like it should be that bad, and yet it makes every decision it can to make sure things are as unenjoyable as they can possibly be. It's just outright nauseating at times. The bottom line is that it's a moderately playable platformer that you should only expose yourself to if you somehow have absolutely nothing else to play in your backlog. But with that, perhaps we should all go watch the Blues Brothers movie to try and get that bad taste out of our mouths. Just don't watch the Blues Brothers 2000 though, which somehow Titus also got the rights to make a game based off of? How did that keep happening? At least Blues Brothers 2000 couldn't be made any worse than it already was. But regardless though, what do you think of the Blues Brothers game, movie, or otherwise? And what do you think are some of the best and worst movie games out there? I'd love to hear about your thoughts in the comments down below. But thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks and take care, everybody.